Welcome to Hail Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hail Varsity and at Schmitz_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmitz.
Great to have you in on Wednesday. It's Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Chris Schmidt, Elijah Herbal back at it. And you. Great to be in. One of the dominoes have dropped for college football from a scheduling announcement. We'll have that for you in just a moment. Good stuff from Mike Babcock from HailVarsity.com and magazine in about 15 minutes. I am sad. It's been raining all day in eastern Nebraska, which means Mike Schuart from Wilderness Ridge may have melted if he's outside. We'll talk some golf with Shuey in 30 minutes, and then we'll get caught up on the Warren Academy and the showcase that was going on in Nebraska last weekend with the just tremendous talent all across the state and some kids that came in from out of state for the Warren Showcase. Steve Warren with us in 1 hour. Cedric Golden. We'll talk bubble with Cedric. What happens on college campuses when kids come back? Does that make things more tricky? Yes, for college football coaches that want a season. Can join us at 466-3776, 466-3776, 800-825-5865. We'll dive into the Nebraska wide receiver room. Some good stuff from Matt Lubick with the network last night. And let's talk schedules here first. And we've been waiting, and we weren't sure if we were going to get information from the ACC or the SEC today. And I think, and I believe this, college football will move forward if the SEC says we're going to play ball. Well, they have not been the first to speak. It's been the ACC, and one of your leaders in college football has been Clemson. But the ACC announcing probably about 35 minutes ago, again, the dreaded if. But this is part of the statement. If health guidance allows, fall sports going to begin the week of September 7th through the 12th. What's going to happen in football for the ACC? 11 games on the schedule, 10 conference, 1 out of conference. And then Notre Dame, as Beano Cook used to say. They'll play a 10-game conference schedule, and they'll be eligible to compete for the 2020 ACC title game. So it's all good, Elijah. The ACC is going to get some NBC money, and Notre Dame's going to get a schedule.
And we get football.
And we get bleeping football.
That's the main thing here. But I mean, Clemson.
If public health guidance allows.
Yeah.
But right now, you look at the campuses and the regions in the ACC. There's no public health director that says, yeah, sure, go tackle somebody and sweat on them. go exchange some spit. It'll work out okay. Listen.
But at the moment, we're looking at Clemson going to South Bend and playing Notre Dame.
And then they could rematch.
I mean, how much fun would that be? How much fun would it be if Notre Dame in their first year in the ACC, but also not technically in the ACC, winning the ACC crown?
It's funny to see Notre Dame tied down. They've been dating for a long time, but now they need a conference. And quite honestly, I'm not there to hate Notre Dame. I'm far from in love with Notre Dame. I enjoyed my trip there when Nebraska took over 20 years ago. God, I'm old. But I'll tell you this, they are interesting, and I think Coach Kelly's done a good job. I think Notre Dame's a good football program, and it's in the top 3 of toughest places to coach because you got to win or they'll pull the trigger on you in short order. End of discussion. And you're a northern school, you got to nationally recruit, you've got insane academic requirements, and you've always had a pretty fun schedule, whether it be a Notre Dame v. Clemson, a Notre Dame versus Florida State, a Notre Dame against Miami. I mean, Notre Dame's got North Carolina, too, on the road this year. Mac Brown's going to have a squad again. And then typically they'll have USC and Michigan State or Purdue go down the list. Notre Dame's schedule is always fun to see them try and survive it or to see them get knocked off by a Boston College or a Northwestern. So the good news here is you are going to have the ACC, and they are going to play 10 games plus one, and that will probably be your in-state SEC, ACC rivalry game. So you get Kentucky, Louisville, so you get Florida State, Miami, so you get, or Florida, Miami. I don't think they're playing each other, though. But you'll get your Florida State, Miami. That's going to happen anyway because they're both in the ACC. But you'll have one of those non-conference round robins, presumably, whether it's Florida v. Florida State or Florida versus Florida State. That's your end of the season rivalry game, in-state game. You're going to have Georgia Tech, SEC, ACC. You'll have Clemson, South Carolina, SEC, ACC. So that is working. So what happens next with the SEC? Does the SEC move forward and do a 10-game only conference schedule? That is the rumor with the SEC. Their athletic directors are talking it over today. It'll be presented to the school presidents tomorrow. They may announce tomorrow. The SEC may announce tomorrow that they're just doing a 10-game only conference schedule, or they may wait a week. It's fluid, as our friends from Sports Illustrated are reporting. So good, we have college football. That is the here and now. The ACC, the first to jump in the pool. Say we're going to do a 10 plus 1, 11 games max. Thank you for coming. The SEC, good. That's going to be fun because you've got your 8-game schedule. Now they're going plus 2 from 8 to 10. And maybe that includes some of those rivalry options like we touched on between the ACC and the SEC. So up next is going to be some sort of Big Ten announcement and schedule configuration. This is a marriage of convenience for Notre Dame. It's going to work out. They're going to have a fun schedule, and if they are good enough, they could be playing in December in the SEC championship game. Good. This is positive. This is positive. A delay today or tomorrow, or the putting off till next week, that would have made me more worried. We at least have something down on paper now. Let's talk about projections a little bit and get into Nebraska football, the wide receiver room. All right, grade me your level of excitement with the Nebraska wide receiver room. I'm going to go 7.
So the top of the room, I think I have a lot of excitement for.
Okay.
But some of the depth, it's kind of show me time. Like the Cade Warners, show me.
Okay.
But, I mean, with the Alante Browns and Wandale coming back, Omar Manning, I'd probably put it around at a 7 or an 8 with you.
Okay. Listen, I don't doubt Cade Warner at all. Is he the most athletically gifted guy they've got in the room? No. Is he a guy that's probably got the most confidence? I'd say yeah, because he's played a couple of years. Is he the toughest guy they got in the room? I wouldn't put it past him because of how he tried to gut out things last year. Mm-hmm. And I think a major part of the struggles you had in the passing game last year, I mean, you had JD dealing with his stuff as well as he performed on Saturdays. He was still dealing with stuff. And then who? I mean, who did you trust in the wide receiver room? You didn't get a lot of passes to Jack Stoll. That's not a wide receiver, but you get my point.
It's a pass catcher.
What were your options? And your security blanket, your Cade Warner, that Adrian's gone to a lot. If you go back to 2018, he wasn't there. He wasn't there as often as he wanted to be because he was dinged. And he tried to get on the field. So I'm up to a 7 in optimism for the wide receivers just because you've got such an assortment of options and talent. Now, the problem is, how many Wandale and Warners do you have in that room? And what I mean by that, guys that you know are physically gifted, but can they pick it up and then can they play fast? Coach Lubick gushed about Wan'Dale Robinson last night, deservedly so, because of how he came in. I mean, the guy knew he had a job to do. The guy was physically ready, but he got himself mentally ready. And by the way, he did it for 2 positions. Part of that was out of need and necessity. The other part of it was this kid's really good. He came in D1 ready, ahead of the curve, so to speak, physically and then mentally. Smart football IQ guy with insane talent and quicks. You've got a smart football IQ guy in Warner that just finds a way to get it done. And I'm not knocking his athleticism. I think he's super talented. And he just gets it done, man. I mean, he's kind of a throwback Husker. Just find a way. So you have a guy like Warner and Wan'Dale, and then you have other options. The guy we're all really interested in because of the hype is Omar Manning. And again, this is Coach Lubick last night with the network. And part of this discussion was on the Division I, the transfer and transition. And Manning's a guy who's played college football before going to JUCO. So he knows what major college football is about, but it just varies, right? It's not always just seamless. Guys just can't come in and start kicking butt. There is a learning curve. Here is Coach Lubick.
It's really hit and miss. I've been fortunate. I've been around guys like Chad Johnson, TJ Huzmanzada. Those guys were both Pro Bowl guys. They came in, they're still a learning curve. You can't assume they just know your offense. Sometimes they're a little bit more mature and they know what college ball is like and work, and they played at a little higher level. At the end of the day, they're still clean slate like a freshman, and that you got to teach them their offense. Sometimes just physically they're a little more developed, but it's really hit and miss. It's tough to say. And you see guys like Wan'Dale, who, he's a guy fresh out of high school and comes in and, one of the better freshmen in the country. So whether it's a JC guy or whether it's a high school guy, it's really an individual case on how fast they can learn it and confidence. And then
we'll get to that confidence thing. Do you know what you're doing? And do you feel good about what you're doing in this offense? That's the flat out reality. Are guys knowing what they're supposed to do? Are they in the right spots? Are they doing their job? And are they really good at their job? It is going to take reps. It'll take reps for Manning. It'll take reps for Houston. It'll take reps for Nance. You've got the dudes there. Okay? You've got to get them ready. And you have been severely hampered to do that because of stupid COVID and no spring football and limited contact until you get this mini camp, and then you'll get into fall camp. But what are guys doing on their own? And it helps having a guy like Warner and Wan'Dale in that room to say, here's what we need to do, and follow me. Let's go Charlie Steiner and say, follow me to freedom, right? This helps. This is part of my optimism because you've got a couple of dudes. You've got a hungry Warner that's going to play ball and do things the right way and show guys how to do it. You got a talent in Wan'Dale, and now you have other guys that are going to get in line. And if they're not going to get in line, and I'm not saying they won't, but I'm saying if you don't have guys that can get in line, there's enough talent in that room, you're going to be left behind. And it's a deep room. I mean, you've got Nixon, you've got Houston, you've got Nance, you've got Wan'Dale, you've got Hickman, you've got Warner, you've got Manning, you've got Betts, you've got Brown. I know Nixon's dinged, but I mean, we just rattled off really nice option at wide receiver.
Yeah, so many guys where you hear the name and you go, yeah, I was excited for this guy coming in. When this guy committed, I was excited. It's time for them to show, but the potential's there.
Well, and I think like some of the incoming freshmen, like true freshmen this year from the receiving corps, we'll see how quickly they get acclimated and what's their learning curve like, and when does it click for them? Right? When does it click for him? And I think the expectation is for it to click with a guy like Omar Manning immediately.
A guy that's been in another Division I offense and a guy who spent a lot of time in JUCO developing his talents. I mean, yeah, I agree. He's seen a lot of different concepts.
But that's you just heard Lubick say that's not always the case. More from Lubick on, it's not the most talented guys that necessarily see the field, guys that get it down.
getting those guys confidence is getting them reps and giving them some success, because that's the other thing. It's not always the most talented guy that plays the fastest. I tell these guys that all the time. It's the guy that can learn it, and have confidence and go out there, and you have to do a little extra on your own, really, to catch up and get up to speed with everybody else.
That's going to be key, and that'll be key with Lubick. He'll go with who he trusts. Adrian's going to throw the football to who he trusts. And the guys know what they're doing. Are they great blockers? Are they great pass catchers? Do they know the routes?
Have they been studying the playbook all offseason?
Do they get open? Mm-hmm. What's the interaction been like during this offseason? What was able to be done to get everybody on the same page and at least up to some speed? So I'm high on the wide receiver room. There's so much talent in there, and they have been hampered by the amount of reps that can physically be done with no spring ball. That said, guys hopefully can come in. They can go ball. And you've got a couple of targets for sure, right, with Wandale and a healthy Cade Warner. We'll talk some more Nebraska football with Mike Babcock, some of his expectations for the wide receiver room, get his reaction to the ACC and what happens with the SEC. Great to have you. Steve Warren is less than an hour away. The Warren Academy, his take on what a just tremendous showcase weekend he had. That's after 5 o'clock. Hail Varsity continues. We're presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And we're back
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio lesson?
on Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
I think the most appropriate GIF I have seen while scrolling Twitter on Notre Dame and Notre Dame fans, if they make the ACC championship, is a quick little screenshot from Curb Your Enthusiasm with Larry David kind of just shrugging. It's like he's not impressed. I wonder how Notre Dame feels about, hey, you're one of us now. And Notre Dame's like, yeah, we're just renting. Sorry, we're not buying. Let's talk some college football. Mike Babcock with us at MD Babs on Twitter's where you follow him. You read him with HailVarsity.com and magazine. Babbers, what do you think of the ACC moving forward?
Well, it's all dependent, right? Isn't that the key phrase
There's
there?
that dirty word, if.
Yeah. And that's the thing that still has me believing that the chances are not good that we're going to play. I think in the mailbag today, there was one of the questions was related to that, how the NFL, there are a lot of there are NFL players that are opting out, mm-hmm. Because of the pandemic, and I really think that the NFL, part of what the NFL will do is model it, use the Major League Baseball and the NBA as a model and see where things go with that. And, if the NFL decides to back off, then I think college football is going to back off. I think it's more of that just dependent, that if is an important word in any decision that you see here. And, I think that's the key right there is that if depends upon what the situation is at the time. It's good to have a plan mm-hmm. to move forward, but boy, you throw that all caps if in there, and you have to temper your enthusiasm a little bit.
Well, at least we're still not waiting on a schedule or a plan, right? The longer you wait on a schedule or a plan, the more likelihood that this thing is punted. So there's why I'm smiling, and yeah, it's Christmas morning for me. Okay, it's better than the alternative where we're just shutting everything down. I'll say this: I think the struggle with the NFL will play.
You think the NFL will? Huh?
I do. The problem the NFL is going to have is what Major League Baseball's been jacking with, and that's there's no bubble, right? I mean, you have the opportunity in the NFL to have some hub cities. That's not happened, okay? So I think getting pro athletes to be in a bubble is going to freak them out, aside from the NBA. The NBA's done it and the NHL's done it. I think part of baseball's problem is the fact they didn't have a bubble.
Yeah, and right now you've got a bad situation because of the Marlins and the impact that's had and how that's affected the schedule. And you've got 66 days to play 60 games, and you get something like that. And apparently there were people that knew about it, and they went ahead. And it just. I look at the NFL. The NFL is, as you pointed out, and as obvious, I guess, is that it's just more physical than these other sports in the same way, obviously. So college football has more to consider in whether you want to move forward. And I think college kids are college kids. It's going to be difficult for them to be in any kind of a bubble situation because. Just is. I mean, it takes a tremendous commitment. Yeah, and there's talk. I don't know how far this has gone, but talk about limiting rosters and numbers of guys so it's easier to control. But you think about the amount of tests that have to be conducted, and the sort of self-discipline that the student athlete has to have in order to play. I remain skeptical, but I accept your position. I think it's better to have a plan and to identify this is what we're going to do if we're able to, than to sit around and just to hedge, to not do anything, because then that I think really increases the chances that you're not going to be able to play if you're going to just keep putting it off. Make a schedule, get an idea of what you want to do, and then use the context of the time to decide whether you're going to go forward or not.
Mike Babcock with us here on Hail Varsity Radio. Mike, you mentioned the NFL players that are sitting out this upcoming season. Damian Williams just announced, actually, running back for the Chiefs. But I saw that Virginia Tech cornerback Caleb Farley, he's a projected first-round pick next year in the NFL draft. He's decided he's going to sit out of this upcoming college football season, assuming that there is a season. But are you surprised that it took this long for us to get the first college football player to decide he's going to sit out?
No, because I think there's so much uncertainty about where things stand, and I think guys haven't really thought about it a lot until there's talk about what the NFL is doing. But I think that's going to be one of the things you have to consider too. Is that there are collegiate student athletes again that have aspirations. A lot of them do, obviously. To play in the NFL, and they're going to look at it and say, well, do I impede my chances of playing in the NFL or being a high-round draft pick or whatever by not playing, or am I better off playing? I mean, it's a difficult question, I think. If you don't play, then you're out of it for an entire season. And if the NFL is playing, how difficult is that for you? I mean, it doesn't surprise me because it's really a difficult question for those student athletes to answer what they want to do.
Mike Babcock's with us. Adam D. Babs on Twitter is where you follow Mike, and you read him with HailVarsity.com and magazine. Babbers, I want to go to Nebraska football and enjoyed Coach Lubick last night on the network. A thought, how much, in your opinion, did Nebraska miss a Cade Warner? How much did Adrian miss a Cade Warner? How much did the offense miss a Cade Warner, who was battling injury last season?
Well, I've always said this, and I really feel that he's a good player. I mean, he is so reliable. He knows what he's supposed to do. He's in the right position at the right time, and he's the guy that maybe he's not going to stretch the field for you or anything, but he's the guy that you can go to and know where he is if there's not another choice, another decision to be made. So I think that Nebraska missed him a lot when he was hurt, when he didn't have the opportunity to be out there, and I think we're seeing that from what Coach Lubick said, about the leadership that he provides in that room. I just think that he's an underappreciated receiver because he's not flashy. He's walked on, and I just think that a healthy Cade Warner is really important to what Nebraska wants to do with wide receivers.
Couple of names in that receiver room. you're anxious to see my we were talking to start the show, my level of optimism, excitement for the wide receiver room. They've gone from one end of the spectrum where there was a couple of choices last year to, man, there's a lot of choices this year. I mean, clearly guys got to learn it and get comfortable and get confident. It just doesn't happen overnight, and it's been kind of a stymied development phase with no spring ball and an issue with being able to work out because of this pandemic. That said, man, I think there's a lot of options at wide receiver, and I don't know that everyone's Wandale or Cade when it comes to understanding the offense or coming and hitting the ground running. But I think there's enough choices there to field a really good receiving core. Don't you, Mike?
Yeah, I think there is. I think the potential is there. I'm looking forward to seeing Omar Manning. I think he's going to have an immediate impact. I would have liked to have seen J.D. Spielman come back with Nebraska, because then you've got Wandale, J.D. and Cade Warner. But that's a good place to start, and then you can work those guys in as they become accustomed to the system. But don't have that option, so I'm looking forward to, again, especially Omar Manning. But there's a lot of talent there, and Betts, Xavier Betts. I think he's a guy that could be have an immediate impact. But there are probably other guys there that are in the same situation, and that's where whatever semblance of a fall camp there is, that's going to be really important for those guys because they don't have experience in the system. They don't have experience here. They're adjusting. And there's always a period of adjustment. It's difficult. A guy like Wandale, that's pretty remarkable what he did immediately. But that's the exception rather than the rule, I think. And so the talent you're talking about has some things to prove and has some adjustment to make before you can really say, yeah, that's what we thought it was going to be.
Mike, which guys do you most want to see performing out in the field this year? I know there's been a lot of hype coming into the season, but if you could pick a few guys that you are most excited to see perform, who'd you pick?
A wide receiver you're talking about?
Yeah, wide receiver.
Yeah, like I said, Manning. I really think Manning, he's got size, and I just think he's got a great upside there. And Betts. I'm not saying necessarily that he wouldn't redshirt, but I think that he has an opportunity to step in there. And Jamie Nance was already here. I think there's potential for him to see something out of him. So those are probably the main guys that I'm looking at. But Alante Brown and Will Nixon. You guys mentioned them. I'm going to start forgetting people, but
there's a lot to mention.
Yeah, there are a lot, but I'm going to start with. I'm going to start with Manning. I just want to see what he can do.
Babbers, I've got less than a minute. Were you saddened to see that people were throwing at several Astros players?
Yeah, I was.
Really? Okay. Good for you.
Yeah. I was. I don't want to see that kind of behavior at all. I mean, it's just. That's not the way we should be in any aspect of our life. I don't think that's not the way we should be.
Joe Kelly received an 8-game suspension by the MLB. Is that high to you, or does that seem about right?
I don't really have a sense of it. But we're talking about a 60-game schedule, right? So
that's freaking high.
It's the equivalent of a 22-game suspension.
Well, it's a warning. Season. No more is what it is.
Yeah, that's fairly significant, I'd say. That's probably appropriate.
Joe, you get to watch. There you go. Babbers, awesome to chat with you. Thanks for spending some time on football with us today, and we'll run you down next week, man. Have a safe and healthy week, okay?
Be safe, guys. Great talking to you.
All right, there he is, Mike Babcock, historian, author, Hall of Famer, and exclusively with Hail Varsity Magazine, HailVarsity.com, at MD Babs on Twitter. We will head to the golf course. We got the old rain poncho out. Shuey is coming up. Steve Warren and Cedric Golden next hour. Hail Varsity presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Thanks for hanging out. Steve Warren, 20 minutes away. Warren Academy, we welcome in with Wilderness Ridge. Mike Schuhart is checking in from the golf course. Shuey, you got a poncho on? Did we lose him? Hello, Mike Schuhart.
I'll dial him back up. We had him for a second.
That'd be good. Yeah, that was set up, and I was all anxious to hear about Shuey's poncho in the rain, like that scene in we don't want that scene in Caddyshack where I think it was the priest who got electrocuted. But Shuey's smarter than that. He will not shake a metal object with thunderstorm clouds in the area. That is, we got him? Shuey, do you have us, buddy? How are you?
I'm good. You?
I'm good. Are you melting, brother?
No, it's not too bad. The rain quit finally, so it's not too bad out now.
I need to come see you. I had the worst round of my life. Awesome experience at Wilderness Ridge Sunday. But I played.
I saw you getting ready to go.
Man, I should have stayed in the bar. I'm serious. I couldn't swing through everything. I think I lost 15 balls. I kid you not. I was hurting. I'm fat and lazy. I need getting shaped up by Shuey. So
there you go.
Yeah, it was a rough one Sunday, but I was golfing and I was enjoying it. So talk to me here about the Divot Dogs, my friend, and how things have kind of navigated this summer session with those kids. I see the social media updates, man. It looks like your kids are having a fun time.
Yeah, they're doing great. We're about done. We had our last practice last week. They have a tournament. They have 2 tournaments left. They have one tomorrow. And I think they have one up in Fremont. So season went fast. It's already over, but they've had a great season. We've had a lot of teams, a lot of kids play really well this year. So it's fun. Been a lot different. I mean, they kind of changed the format and what it is. So we did the best we could with what we had.
Well, that's, so the kids had a good time. The format was shifted, like you said, but they were able to lock in, got to roll with the punches. That's kind of the name of sports in 2020, isn't it? What's your take here on Tiger? Let's go to the PGA, and he's not going to be in Memphis a week out from the PGA Championship, and I know we always kind of spend time and talk Tiger, but I'm interested in your take when it comes to how selective Tiger has been. Is it just been a health and safety thing for him, or is he just still trying to kind of ease back in?
I think a combination of both. I think he has to definitely have a lot different schedule than he used to because of his health, his age, all that stuff like that. I think he played at the Memorial to kind of gauge where he was at, what he needed to do to get himself ready for the majors. He'll focus a lot on the majors. Because it's him trying to break the records and that. And those are the big tournaments for him. You're not going to see him play a lot of other tournaments throughout the year other than the majors, and he'll play a few tournaments and use those tournaments kind of to get a feel for where his game is and what he needs to do in preparation, to give him the best chance to win his majors.
What do you look forward to this weekend in Memphis? And as far as the lead up here to the PGA,
you'll see some guys that are just some guys that haven't played all that well. I think you'll see them step their game up, like a Brooks. He's probably had a little disappointing start to the season, but you can see him start to round into shape each week. He's played better and better and better. And those guys, majors, get them a little more excited. When a major comes around, it's like that's what. Your top players, that's what they focus on basically throughout the year, is to win a major, because winning a major is a lot more important than just winning a regular tour event. Not that that's not a bad thing, but majors are what they're after, because that's kind of sets them apart from everybody else, and they really kind of gear their game up for the majors.
Mike Schuhart's with us, Wilderness Ridge Golf. We catch up with Shuey every Wednesday at 4:40. Shuey, what was it like for you? You played in several majors.
How
was your attitude? How was your focus? What were your nerves like as you headed in?
They were super exciting. Super nerve-wracking. Not used to playing around, with all those people around. Obviously, it's a little bit different, but it's a major. That's as high as it gets. You put yourself in a position at the at the highest level against the best players. So it's pretty nerve-wracking. But at the same time, it's really exciting because, you get to experience all of the things that go along with playing in a major, and it gets to test you. And it will test you. They set those golf courses up super hard. They have the long golf courses. They have hard, fast greens. They have thick rough. And it's like if you are off a little bit, you're going to pay the price, But at the same time, it challenges you, it narrows your focus in, trying to navigate what's out there in front of you. But it is really hard. People don't realize how hard it really is. It's not like going out and playing Wilderness Ridge on Sunday afternoon. It's a little bit different than that.
So did it bolster your confidence, or did it punch you in the face?
It did both, man. It punched me in the face really hard a bunch of times, But at the same time, it's like, it motivated me more to elevate my game, to be able to get back and try to compete at a venue like that, in the competition like that. And each time I got there, I got better. Mm-hmm. It's like, it's just so hard. For a guy like myself that's not playing consistently out there leading up to that, and then all of a sudden put yourself in that environment, So it's like, it's something you need to put yourself in that environment a lot, so you get a little more comfortable with it. Just like anything, you have to learn how to get comfortable when you're uncomfortable, which is really weird because you're pretty much uncomfortable the whole time. So it's like how comfortable you can get when you're super uncomfortable. And
who'd you lean on advice-wise? Were you able to go talk to some folks, or is it even like that in the world of golf?
Yeah, I had guys that I had known and met and played practice rounds with. I know I played with Zach Johnson at one of my majors. We played in a practice round. I'd met Zach over the years, so we went out and played a practice round, and numerous other guys that had been around and had success out there. Stuart Sink and a guy named Kurt Triplett and a bunch of other guys. That it was fun just to catch up with them. Stuart Appleby, guys to catch up with and play, and that helped a lot, because and they were really good. They were like, you were one of the guys that were, out there playing, so that helped a lot.
Mike Schuhart, Wilderness Ridge Golf. Shuey, let's talk Fit Friday. Got about 30 seconds, and also, the course is open for folks. Sneak in some golf before this football season happens, right?
Yeah. Is the football season going to happen?
Well, Notre Dame's, I guess we'll say, engaged to the ACC.
So, right. So, yeah, we have a Fit Friday, not this Friday, but the following Friday. So call out and schedule a time. So we're going to do a Fit Friday that Friday and come out and play some golf, man. It sounds like the weather's going to be beautiful this week, so not hot and humid, so no better time to get out on the golf course and play.
Well, we're excited, too. Going to be out at Wilderness on the Deck the 28th of August for a live road show with Hail Varsity.
That's going to be so fun.
We're going to have Shuey, man. Can't wait to see you. And depending on Junior's baseball schedule, I might see you this weekend. But thanks again for jumping on.
Man. You bet. Thanks for having me.
All right. Mike Schuhart with us on Hail Varsity.
And now, back to Hail Varsity Radio.
Coming up, Steve Warren, Warren Academy. How was the weekend showcase? And the aspects of recruiting. That is coming up with Steve Warren. We'll spend some time with Cedric Golden, the NFL and reality of a college football bubble. Once kids return to campus, a Jock Doc's on the way. Elijah Herbal. You can check him out on Twitter at Herbal Essence. Chris Schmidt at Schmidt_radio. Are you going to do a new posting on your Twitter with a stash picture?
I don't know,
because you just had the stash going. You look like a mid-'80s guy trying out for acting.
Some cute girls follow me on Twitter, though. I'm not sure if I'm ready to show this off yet.
Haven't you seen him in person?
Well, I mean, yeah, but not without the mustache. Not with the mustache.
So you've been socially distant.
Yeah, obviously.
The mustache has helped with that.
I mean, maybe if I pulled off like a sick Fu Manchu, maybe didn't that go on
See,
Twitter?
the rule of thumb, every dude that's got a Fu Manchu, you got to have the soul patch below the bottom lip, and then you got to have a toothpick in your mouth.
See, I can get the soul patch going.
And then just shave your head.
Oh, no.
Just go with the Fu Manchu, the soul patch, and get a toothpick.
My mom back in like 5th grade shaved my head, and it was the worst look I've ever had. And I still don't forgive her for that. She's like, you're going to be so much happier, not all
No,
that
you
hair."
won't. No, you won't. You and Scottie Pippen both resent getting your head shaved.
And now I get older. I'm like, I get it now. Like, you didn't want to deal with haircuts and all
Yeah,
that. Like,
it
I
was
get
just
it.
easy.
Shave the head. But man, did I get made fun of.
Were you bigger and heavier than most kids?
Oh, yeah.
So you just beat the hell out of them once you caught them.
If I could catch him.
Okay.
If I could catch
That
him.
was a real issue.
Yeah.
It's okay. We were all husky once.
I mean, like, back in, like, I remember 3rd, 4th grade, I was a double dot back in football. If you remember the midget football grading system.
So they wouldn't let you near the post game fruit snacks, and they wouldn't let you anywhere near the ball.
Yeah, no, they would put me on the offensive line, and when you're a double dot, they don't let you play one side of the ball because you can't be too dominant, I guess.
Dude, did that make you weep?
No, but it really made me mad. That's
So
why,
you just
that's why I got good at offensive line. is
Unloaded
because-
on people.
It's because back in the day, they're like, you can only play one way. You want to play offense or defense?
You
And I
were a
said,
double dot.
yeah, right. I was like 110, 115 pounds, like 3rd grade.
Chubbs, you're playing nose tackle, and shut up.
I swear it was all muscle back in 3rd grade.
Dude, we all were flabby and Shar-Pays when we were in 3rd grade. It was okay. You just sprouted upward. It's okay. Moving. Maybe it's happening for you. If so, West Blue Realty is going to take care of you on that. They take care of folks with residential home sales in Lincoln and the surrounding areas. WestBlueRealty.com. 2 names you need to know when it comes to moving. Tom Luby, Kelly Hofschneider. Give Tom a shout at 402-540-3768. Kelly Hofschneider can give Kelly a call at 402-202-2312. WestBlueRealty.com. If you're moving, if you're looking for some property, some residential sales, or looking for that house, WestBlueRealty.com, 1120 K Street, Suite 200. And you mentioned Hale Varsity. They can provide you up to $1,000 off the closing of your next home purchase. So think about WestBlueRealty.com. Shooter McGavin has just weighed in on the whole Joe Kelly suspension. Shooter McGavin tells us that Kelly needs to order an Astros jersey and wear it for the rest of the season. That way he doesn't have to worry about being suspended.
It is sad that Kelly was the first player to be suspended in wake of this Astros cheating scandal. And it was for throwing at the Astros.
Yeah, 8 games. That equals like 22. Steve Warren is up next on Hale Varsity.
Welcome to Hale Varsity Radio, the voice of Husker Nation. Insight, opinion, expertise, with the biggest and best names talking Nebraska across the state. Join the show on Twitter at Hale Varsity and at Schmidt_radio. Call in at 402-466-ESPN or 1-800-825-5865. Here's Chris Schmidt.
Back into it at Tower 2. It's Hale Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Let's get caught up with former Husker standout, guy who does so much in the community with the Dream Foundation and the Warren Academy. Steve Warren with this big old number 96. Steve, what's good, man? How you doing?
I'm doing well, Chris. How about yourself? I can't complain. Just living the dream right now.
Well, good for you, man. And I wanted to get caught up with you after the showcase this past weekend. And I want to go back to your experience. You're a guy who got a scholarship to Nebraska. But as you were growing up, what was your own exposure like for college football programs? I mean, how were you able to get on Nebraska's radar, other teams' radar where you grew up?
Oh, back then it was way different than these kids experience now. Like, we didn't have Snapchat or Twitter or Instagram to kind of post things instantly. You know, everything back then was VHS tapes. So we sent out our tapes. We went to camp. Coaches did a lot more foot traffic than they had to do today. You know, they had to physically go see kids a lot more and sooner. It was a lot different experience. But, you know, it was one of those things that we always tell kids, if you're a good player, they'll find you.
Steve Warren Warren is with us. How soon did you get on Nebraska's radar, and who are some other schools that were interested in you?
It was pretty soon. My first letter and my first kind of a recruitment experience, I was a sophomore in high school, and the University of Tennessee was the very first school that contacted me. And I was kind of shocked. I was sitting in class, and a letter comes, to my desk, and it's a big orange, bright letter, and it's Tennessee. And, I'm just a sophomore in high school at the time, so I don't have a clue what the hell was going on and why they're contacting me. But then after that, it just kept rolling. It was school after school, and Nebraska jumped on pretty soon, not too far after that, my sophomore year, and started contacting me. And from there, it just kind of rolled. Of course, Missouri, being from Missouri, Illinois, all the Big 8, soon to be Big 12 teams for the most part, Oklahoma State. They all contacted me at some point and recruited me, and then, as far down as Alabama.
That's impressive. Did that letter sing Rocky Top, or was it just a big old orange 8x10?
Back then it was more of like a form letter, like you've been identified as one of the top kids in your class, and, can you send us your height, weight, measurements, and everything was pen and paper too. That was the other thing, is it was pen and paper and fax machine. So that's how we communicated, or by regular house phone, which is way different than today. Nobody's got house phones anymore for the most part. So it was interesting. It's interesting to see in the last 20 plus years how things have changed.
Yeah, Steve Warren, what's a landline, right? So let's kind of zoom out now to what Warren Academy is and kind of your mission for it. And listen, you've always cared about people, and you've done that through mentoring. You've done that through Dream. You're doing that with kids when it comes to their training. And what did Saturday mean to you? And kind of take us through getting ready for it, because it had to be just incredibly stressful based on the pandemic we're facing. I mean, it's not a normal year, obviously.
No, not a normal year. The good thing for us is that with training and the academy having facilities already running and operating, and we were already having kids coming in and out, parents in and out. We had procedures in place to help them, to help protect them, to help protect ourselves. Masks were required by our coaches and anybody that was coming into the building. We had most of the stuff. We checked temperatures as they walked through the door. We went through the COVID checklist with every person that came through the door. So we already had those procedures in place just because we've already been doing it. It's something that we do every day right now. That part wasn't as stressful for us. It was really just making sure that we were doing what we were supposed to be doing.
Steve Warren's with us. Few minutes. Hail Varsity Radio, the Warren Academy Showcase this past weekend. Steve, you've trained a lot of kids that have gone on to their dream, and that's to play college football at different spots. And at what point did you notice that there is so much area talent? I mean, you've got some really high-profile kids in the metro region, in the surrounding Omaha area, and then the state of Nebraska, and even some surrounding states. But at what point during the Warren Academy or your involvement in training did you see this uptick, this explosion? Because it feels like, quite honestly, being from Nebraska, you had a lot of local high-level talent 20, 25 years ago. It feels like this is kind of a 2.0 of that, with so many really high-level kids in this area.
It is really taken off in the last few years with the amount of talent that is coming out of the area. Of course, you got the kids coming just across the river in Iowa there, and then Lincoln's always had a good pool of talent, and Omaha is just developing more and more talent. I think it's a testament to the high school coaches that they're really working on their craft with these kids and their position craft, and really paying attention to, what's kind of the trends going on around. And the game has changed, of course, right? So for a lot of the kids that were around here, it's fitting their skill set for the teams that are recruiting them. We've always had big kids in Nebraska, right? Like linemen, but the linemen and the tight ends have been really impressive to see. The skill position players, you always get 1 or 2, 3 or 4 of those guys, but we have a ton of big kids. And we have a ton of big, strong, fast kids that are pretty athletic. So that's the part for me that's been exciting, is to see the big boys get some love.
Those big guys. I mean, it seems like you throw a dodgeball anywhere and you're going to hit kids that are 6'5", and 2 bills and above, and they can run, specifically that tight end position. Why do you think there's so many high-level tight ends in the region?
The game. The game changed. Before those kids would have been made to be like inline blocking tight ends, right? Or inline, or they would have made them tackles or guards. Now, because the game is so vertical with the passing game, those kids that are big and athletic now get a chance to display that skill set. Where before, a lot of those kids would have just played basketball, or they wouldn't have played football because they're like, well, if I play football, all I'm going to be doing is blocking. Now they have a chance to go out and show that athletic ability and run routes and jump over the top of people and catch balls, and it's more exciting for them now. The game changed from being more of a ground game to more of a passing game. So those kids have gotten more opportunities now because that's their skill set.
What type of changes and evolution have you seen on the lines of scrimmage, specifically, your forte, the defensive side? What type of tricks in your tool bag do you need to play D-line nowadays?
It's still the same. The defensive line for me is still the same stuff. You got to have great feet, you got to have good hands, and you got to be physical. That part's never going to change with defensive line and offensive line play. The best thing about it now is that these kids are more athletic because they're doing more training that's developing athleticism, right? It's just not about the weight room anymore. And as we kind of laugh as a staff, being guys that have played in the NFL, so many of these kids just get caught up. I need to lift a ton of weight and I need to be strong and the old Husker power stuff. But that's not football anymore. You've got to be able to move. And these kids now are figuring that out. We always used to say as a staff and as coaches, the weights don't fight back. You know what I mean? Those weights, you can move away. You can move 300 pounds in a weight room, but can you move a 300-pound man that's moving his feet and fighting back? And so kids are starting to figure that out. So we still got a long way to come in that area. Still people still put a whole lot in, just thinking they need to lift 600-700 pounds, and you don't. You need to be able to move, and you need to be flexible, and you need to be athletic. And with the academy, that's what we focus on, is making sure you're big, strong, and athletic, because that's the game. Once you get to the next level, it's about being athletic. It's not just about being strong. Strong is something that you've got to check off in the first box anyway. If you're not strong, you're not going to play. So that's not something that's a basic requirement. Now you got to go beyond the basic.
Steve Warren's with us, the Warren Academy, the Dream Foundation, Hail Varsity Radio. Past weekend, you had the Warren Academy Showcase. Steve, 142 kids and some high-profile recruits. Deshaun Woods, Carney, a kid, of course, a kid from down south of Lincoln with Norris, and Thomas Fidone. And the whole world kind of knows about Thomas Fidone around this region, not only with his recruitment, but also just what he has been able to display with that size and athleticism. And what do you remember about Thomas when he first came to your camp?
Well, he started with us about a year and a half, 2 years ago, so a little over 2 years ago now. And the first thing I remember about him is like how long and athletic he was. Like he didn't have the mass that he has now. He was just he looked more like a basketball player, to tell you the truth. He was just really long, but he had tremendous hands. He's always had those tremendous hands, but he's worked his tail off to get stronger. He's gotten quicker. He looks like a college athlete right now. But the one thing I remember about him is just his length and his ability to get to catch the ball almost in any radius. I don't know if I've ever seen him really drop a ball. He's got tremendous hands.
Well, the footage I saw, him, the way he comes out of his breaks and the way he's able to pinpoint the ball. And, yeah, I was not there Saturday, but just you're right with his hands, but you mix that hands with the athleticism. Is it fair to say you've seen a shift? I mean, a lot of the basketball kids that want to play football or those multiple sport guys thriving in football, is that, have you seen them be able to focus the different parts of their athleticism into football from different sports?
Yeah, I think we've seen that now as, kids that are multi-sport athletes, and we're a multi-sport athlete organization. We don't believe kids should specialize. So we're seeing that with the kids that we know. Most of the kids that we have play at least 2 sports, and that's good for them. You know, they're able to, you know, cross train and to be able to get a different exposure to athleticism, and it translates to the football field. So we're definitely seeing that in our game.
Steve, a thought here as, you know, you want to do this showcase. You've wanted to put a showcase on and bring kids together with coaches and get the exposure. 142 kids for this first showcase. You know, how does it get bigger and how does it get better next season? What do you want to do as you move forward?
Well, it'll definitely be an annual event. We got great reviews from all the coaches that were able to be in attendance, and of course all the writers that were there. A lot of the parents that have been traveling around the different combines and showcases, a lot of them told us that, you know, this is the best one they've been to. So that was good to hear as our very first one. But, you know, we're football guys, so we understand the difference with us with a lot of other groups that try to do this is, you know, we've got the background in everything from the speed and agility to the strength training to combine prep to coaching and position drills. We've got it all in-house. And that's what makes us a lot different than anybody else is that we don't have to specialize in one thing because we have somebody that does it all, and we've all been through it at a high level, and there's no other group that can say that. So we just took our expertise and we poured it into one day, something we've been wanting to do for a while, and the time was just perfect for us to do it, and then the need was there more than anything else. Mm-hmm. So we just went and fulfilled that need.
Steve, when it comes to recruitment, you want the best for the kids, and if you're asked, I'm sure there's advice you can give on the other side of things. Who did you lean on during your recruitment process? That's how we started the interview. That's how I want to kind of end it. You know, it's a different time, and there's eyes everywhere, which is a great thing for kids who want to go play ball. How are you able to sift through all of these offers and kind of land where you landed?
I was fortunate that I had an older brother that played college football at the Division II level, so he had been through it somewhat from recruiting and, you know, talking to coaches and kind of what to do, what not to do. But, of course, you know, my experience was a lot different than his at the level that we were getting recruited at. So there was a lot of it that I kind of just learned on the fly. But my older brother definitely helped me out. There weren't a lot of guys in my area at the time that had that experience, so it was definitely just, you know, talking to my coaches, talking to my parents, and then just paying attention to my gut. That's what we tell these kids now is, you know, you'll know if something feels right, if it doesn't feel right. If something feels off, it's off. If something feels good and it feels like that's the way it's supposed to be, then it's good. But also don't fall in love with recruiting. These guys' job when they're recruiting you is their job is to make you fall in love with their school, right? But once you get there, that all changes. No matter where you go, it all changes because once you get to school, it now becomes your job and responsibility to become a player. And so all the nice gift-wrapped clothes and the pictures and the stuff that they do for you, then all that changes. All that changes. The recruiting part is a fairy tale. The real work comes afterwards, so don't fall in love with the fairy tale. Do you talk to kids about social media at all with the recruitment process, just the fan base? I mean, fan base is passionate at a lot of spots, but that's something that is real, and kids can get caught up in it, can't they? Yeah, it's easy to get caught up in it. And, you know, these kids have a very tough job these days because there's so much exposure and there's so many cameras and there's so many things going on and so much instant access to stuff, and sometimes that's dangerous. But for the most part, most of the kids that we deal with are pretty mature kids, and as mature as you can be at 16, 17 years old, of course, but they're pretty mature kids, and the ones that get it, you know, get what you use social media for and what you do and what you do not do on social media. Steve, best to you. Congrats on your success, and we'll do this again. Thanks for a few minutes. Thanks for having me.
And we're back.
Fellas, think we could listen to the radio lesson?
On Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery.
Yes! That's awesome!
Back into it at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. All things football. Let's get caught up with Cedric Golden from the Austin American-Statesman. You follow Ced on Twitter at Ced Golden. And you catch his podcast. If you haven't, you should. On Second Thought is where you can check out Cedric's thoughts. Cedric, what's up, man? How you doing? You being safe and healthy? You okay?
Man, I'm great, Chris. I know that Texas is the new hot spot, and that I guess aside from Florida, and those are for all the wrong reasons. So I'm chilling out at the house and just hoping things get better, not only in Texas but in all of America and the globe.
I second those thoughts, Cedric. What's the feel? Speak, if you can, to Texas high school ball. Let's start with high school this fall, and what's the word out of the Lone Star State in your region in Austin and beyond? Are they moving forward with high school ball?
Apparently they are, Chris. I know the University Interscholastic League, which is the governing body of Texas high school athletics, they released a statement a couple of weeks ago where they're moving back the big classes, Class 5A and Class 6A are moving back a couple of weeks. They're openers. But classes 1A through 4A are business as usual. So they're planning on having high school football. I'm kind of surprised by that because I just really think when you look at the massive amount of money it might take to test all of these kids that test positive, to make sure, if you're doing it with fans in the stands, to make sure that the fans are not positive and that they're not running fevers up around 100, which is a symptom. So to me, I think these school districts are going to be really challenged to keep up as far as the money is concerned, as opposed to college and the pros, where they have money to take care of these kind of things. So if you're asking me today, I just don't know how they can do it. If things don't change, I don't know how you have high school football anywhere, because it's not a moneymaker. And we all know, Chris, that a lot of these colleges and pro leagues are forging ahead because there's so much money to be made.
Don't disagree with you on that. I mean, TV money is vital in the college world, and of course it's lucrative there and in the NFL. Cedric, what's your take with the thought about Texas Stadium, where Bevo and all those Longhorn fans congregate? You've been to that field so many times covering Texas football. What's your reaction to 50% capacity? Is that pie in the sky, or do you think that is something that maybe is a reality?
I really like Chris Del Conte. He's great to deal with, the AD. But when he came out with that, I was like, it just doesn't make any sense to me. 50,000 people in a 100,000 seat stadium, elbow to elbow. That doesn't exactly scream social distancing. And what I'm hearing here of late is that they may go down to 25%, which to me makes a lot more sense. If you can get 25,000 people in there and have everybody be 6 feet apart, that sounds more doable to me than a 50%. So I don't envision any stadium being half full. If things stay like they are right now, Chris, there's no way that Memorial Stadium in Lincoln will be half full, or DKR in Austin will be half full. They're going to probably go one-quarter capacity, if that. But to me, the public health is still number one. I know people love sports. I love it. It's our livelihood, Chris. But I want people to be safe first and foremost.
Cedric Golden's with us, Austin American-Statesman, joining us, Hail Varsity Radio, his podcast on Second Thought, at Ced Golden on Twitter. What's your feel with the Big 12? I know there's going to be a virtual media day on Monday with the Big 12. We're still waiting word on the Big 10 as they're trying to kind of nail down their schedule, and there's been meetings ongoing throughout the week. And the ACC and the SEC and the Big 12 were supposed to come out today with some scheduling thoughts. Sounds like August 4th may be the next announcement date. Things got pushed back there. But what's your reaction to 12 games for the Big 12? Is that a reality? I know Oklahoma and the NCAA gave blanket ability to kick off week 0. That's the last part of August, and Oklahoma is going to do that. But what do you think here with the Big 12 moving forward? If we get football, do they try and get 12 games in? Do we see LSU, Texas?
I know they want to get 12, man, and I know they're pushing forward. But you don't want to miss out on that payday that is LSU, Texas. I'm very skeptical that they're going to be able to play a full schedule. I wouldn't be surprised if they pushed it back a couple of weeks. I know you moved their game to the 29th of August, but I just think that it might be better to give Science another month to see if they can curtail this thing. With that said, I do like the idea of a +1 for the Big 12, which is basically one non-conference game and then play the regular round-robin 9-game schedule and play 10 games. The SEC seems to be on board with something similar. Theirs would probably be a +2, where they would play 2 non-conference games and then 10 conference games. So I think the fewer games you play and the more you limit travel, like Alabama, I believe was going to play USC in Dallas to start the season, and that's been canceled because the Pac-12 decided to go with conference only. So I just think if you could just make it more of a regional schedule and cut down on those really long trips, I think it might be better off moving forward. The positive tests are going to happen, Chris. We know that. You see what's going on with the bubbles, the NBA and the NFLs, the NBAs and the NHLs. The bubble idea is working for those leagues. I think the NFL should take note, and so should MLB, even though MLB is already off and running.
Yeah, MLB has been an interesting kind of sideshow this week.
I know.
With their no bubble, and you look at the Marlins situation, but you're right. The bubble idea has worked, and the NBA released their numbers with 0 positive tests, and they've been able to do that. The NHL's got a couple of hub cities. What as many NFL guys as you know, and as many Cowboy games as you've covered, how would NFL dudes feel about bubble, a mandatory bubble versus threats of a fine, which was put out there earlier this week?
You know what? I just think that it'd be tougher for football, but there's more football players on a team than there are hockey players or NBA players. So a bubble is would take a little bit more doing. I don't know why they didn't just consider maybe venues like the New York Jets and the Giants have a new stadium. The Chargers and Rams have a new stadium for the West Coast. Jerry World would be a good spot for the southeastern teams. So I just think that it makes a lot of sense if you can somehow corral teams and just keep them in one spot, centralize them or whatever, and limit the travel. When it comes to MLB, I was watching ESPN the other day, Chris, and Eduardo Perez, a former player who does a great job as an analyst for their MLB coverage, had a great idea. He goes, why don't we just eliminate clubhouses altogether? You dress at the hotel, go to the game, the starting 9 are in the dugout, everybody else is spread out in the stands and in the bullpens, and then once the game is over, you don't go to the clubhouse, you go back to the hotel, you get dressed, and that's how you do it. And it would be an advantage to the home team. Maybe you can let the home team keep their clubhouse. But as far as road clubhouses, why would you even need to be in a clubhouse the way things are right now? I would just keep it. The fewer places you visit, it cuts down on the chances of you getting infected.
Cedric Golden's with us. Couple more minutes. Hail Varsity Radio Show and Go. That would work out well, and maybe it's an idea. Last thought here is kids return to campus. We're talking hubs. What's the likelihood once the regular student body shows back onto campus interactions are kept to a minimum, and I'm talking about the news on Rutgers, what kind of sparked their outbreak, i.e. a house party or several parties and get-togethers. That's the fun of college, Cedric, especially that first week, man, going out and checking out the student body. But for the most part, a lot of football programs during the summer session, they've done a good job of keeping their dudes kind of away from things, but it's a whole different animal when kids show up on campus. Do you think we're on the verge of tipping the wrong way once students come back on campus?
I do. I mean, well, I was 19 years old once. I went to college. I remember the good old days. I remember going out, and I remember the chase. And college students do college stuff, Chris, and we're not going to keep young people from hanging out. Now, the best teams are going to be the ones where the coaches are going to be able to go, look, you're not going out for the next 5 months. Learn to live with it or transfer. There's not going to be any partying. We're going to sequester. You're not going to be out and about. You're going to spend your time at the facility and at your apartment, and we're going to check up on you. I mean, I'm telling you, man, it is a tough undertaking because everybody knows what college is all about. And young people like to do young people stuff. I am not hating on that because I was young once. But to think that you're going to be able to control this, I just don't see it happening. I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. I hope I'm wrong. But I think the teams that are able to control the social activities of their players are going to be the ones that are going to have the fewest tests.
Don't disagree with you on that. We'll see how receptive guys are to it. Cedric Golden's with us, Austin American Statesman. And, of course, listen to him, his podcast, On Second Thought. Follow Cedric at Ced Golden. Cedric, man, this was good to get caught up. We'll check in here as we get into some football season, hopefully, man. Stay safe and healthy, and thanks for a few minutes with us.
You too, brother. Take care, Chris.
He's in his 30s, but sounds like he was born with a stogie in one hand and a brew in the other.
Now, say my name.
It's Schmitty on Hail Varsity Radio.
I got the body of a taut, preteen Swedish boy.
Back to you at Hail Varsity Radio, presented by the Nebraska Lottery. Time for a Jock Doc Wednesday, and Dr. Brad Webb is with us, Lincoln Orthopedic Center. Dr. Brad, thanks for a few minutes. How's your Wednesday going?
Hey, it's going very well. I appreciate the opportunity today.
Hey, man, it'll be good to chat, and nice to have you back on the Jock Doc again, Dr. Brad Webb. And you know what? It's been a crazy few days for Major League Baseball. It wasn't that long ago we got the report that Justin Verlander, the outstanding ace for the Astros, was going to be shut down, had elbow issues, and was going to be lost for the season. Justin Verlander took to Twitter and said, not so fast, my friends. But the long and short of this is there is a forearm strain, Dr. Brad. Tell us what Verlander's going through here, what the nature of the injury is, and what it's affecting him with when it comes to throwing.
Yeah, and it's a very interesting topic. You assume they're going to tell you it's a forearm sprain because he probably didn't end up tearing his medial ulnar collateral ligament. That's the one that everybody talks about with throwers and the requirement for Tommy John syndrome. You have to assume that he probably only has a partial tear versus a full tear, because if it was a complete tear, why wouldn't they just come out and say, hey, he needs surgery, he's out for the rest of the year? But my guess is the fact that he came back on and tweeted is maybe that the MRI is their general term is just saying, hey, he's got a forearm sprain, maybe he's got a partial tear. They're probably going to do rehab, do an injection of probably stem cells or platelet-rich plasma, try to rehab him in hopes that they may be able to get him back by September for playoffs if they make it. I think if he can't and they end up getting him back, then I think that he ends up probably going to require surgery. But that would be kind of my best guess. They really have been kind of hush-hush on the exact, but you talk about pitchers, and they're only saying medial forearm, and then some reports are saying elbow. You have to assume it's probably requiring or discussing his medial ulnar collateral ligament, which is the one we always talk about in pitchers, whether they're little leaguers or professional, requiring Tommy John syndrome.
Well, and you look at the forearm bone, and that's literally the elbow bone. Yep. So when we talk strain here, what's best case? Is it some rehab, some injections, some rest, and then can he be back? What's a expedited return, or is that just too dangerous based on as great as he is? He isn't a spring chicken anymore. I mean, he's logged a lot of innings. What's the smart play here as far as as soon as he can get back on the hill?
Yeah, I mean, that's the multi-million-dollar question they're wanting to know themselves. I mean, I think regardless, the long term, whether they get him back too quick or not, if he requires surgery, he requires surgery, whether it's torn fully or they're going to try to see if they can get him back for this season. If they have to do surgery, he's out the rest of this year and probably through next season before he's back to pitching professionally again. But so I think that their goal is if they can try to get him back, which my assumption is he probably only has a partial tear, because if it was a full tear, why would they just come out and say, yep, he's done, he's going to have Tommy John surgery, and then start him in that process. So their hopes is that he's either strained or has a partial tear. Their hopes that he can get back, and by doing some rehab and some injections, that I think they're going to try to get him back as soon as they can, but safely.
Couple weeks here is some reports that say that's when Verlander could be back. We're talking Justin Verlander, what's going on with his elbow, the forearm strain as he is deeming it, and Dr. Brad Webb is with us, Jock Doc Wednesday, Lincoln Orthopedic Center. And you look at Verlander, man, where does time go? 16 seasons, right? His first Cy Young Award was 2011. He's nearing that 300 win total. He's at 226 now. Career ERA of 3.33. So let's go to some of the injections here that are options between stem cells and platelet-rich plasma. And for folks wondering or thinking about injections, kind of give us your take here on PRP and how that can really help heal somebody, specifically a guy that's still throwing in the upper 90s.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's not all the research that we'd like to see in terms of what are the actual true benefits. We take our own healing factors from our blood, and that's what, the plasma, the platelet-rich plasma, they'll spin it down from your actual blood, and they take that and inject those factors right into an area that needs healing. So we're trying to take all the good things from our blood that helps us heal and trying to put it in an area of injury in hopes that our body can heal this quicker. I mean, he's 37 years old. I mean, he's had an amazing career so far. It's hard to believe, he's pitched for 4 consecutive seasons where he started over 33 times. I mean, he's had some serious throwing time over his career. And so our hopes is that best case scenario with these injections and trying to get a jump start, help the process by injecting this platelet-rich plasma, that we can get him healing and on the road of recovery and not require surgery if that's the case that ends up happening.
Are there any, forgive me for asking, but when it comes to other steps that Verlander can take, what are your thoughts? I mean, yes, rest, but is it ice? Is it heat? What are some non PRP or stem cell injections that are out there that he may be doing?
It's hard. So there's not a lot of great treatments for this injury pattern. If it is involving his medial ulnar collateral ligament, it is rest, ice. It's a very regimented physical therapy program where they're strengthening the flexors of the forearm, the pronators, all in hoping to strengthen that side of the elbow, the inside of the elbow. And it's really, it's recovery. It's trying to allow the body to try to heal. And the only addition we really have is trying to inject your own platelet-rich plasma or stem cells to see if we can initiate or kind of supercharge this healing process. That's kind of the part we don't know if it's going to take. And we hope for the best for his career.
Last thought here is we're talking about Justin Verlander and what happens with him in this 2020 season. Dr. Brad Webb is with us, Lincoln Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Is age a concern for you? You mentioned the number of innings and starts and just what Verlander has logged the last 5 seasons. I think he's in great shape, and I know he started pitching as a young pup back with Detroit, but 37's not old, but it's not young either in Major League Baseball. Is there just too many miles on this arm, in your opinion?
You hope not. He's the ace. He's got a heck of a career and a phenomenal throwing arm. So you think you never want to rely on age. You just hope that he's continually doing this appropriately and not rushing it. I think that as we age and as many throws that he's had on that elbow, it's probably not going to respond as it was in his early part of his career. But he's a pro athlete. These guys heal at a rate a lot better than the average you and I. So it's going to be an interesting thing to see what happens.
Well, good on him at the age of 36, winning the Cy Young last season. Verlander's about as good as it gets. And we thank Dr. Brandon Webb, Lincoln Orthopedic Center at Jock Doc Wednesday. Dr. Brad, thanks for a few minutes. We'll get caught up again.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you for the time.
Miss us?
Come here, brother. Give me a hug. Bring it in for the real thing.
We're on call for you. Catch the podcast at HailVarsity.com, the ESPN Lincoln app, or download them on iTunes.
Saddle up, partner.
Back to Hail Varsity Radio.
One final time on a Wednesday. Good stuff this hour from Cedric Golden, Steve Warren. Thanks to them for jumping on. Tomorrow we are loaded up. Our friends from Pick 6 Previews going to be on. Talk some college football, some Big Ten projections as their 2020 preview is out. And it's good stuff, man. It's going to be fun to get caught up with Brett from Pick 6 Previews. Gary Barnett will join us. We may have an announcement from the Big Ten tomorrow. Schedule-wise, Brandon Vogel, of course, from Hail Varsity, and the Pride of Chicago, Danny Burke, Burke's Best Bets. We'll get some thoughts. So I'm thinking that Kelly's suspension, that'll probably get reduced. What do you say, 5? You think he'll appeal and get it down to 5?
I don't know if they're going to overturn it. I really don't.
That's excessive, especially in a 60-game.
It's excessive, but at the same time, with this warrant an 8-game suspension in a normal season, I think it'd be high, but I can see the MLB pulling it out.
I think it's 3-game.
I think in
a regular season, it's a 3-game with Kelly. I think they can knock it down to 6 or 5. But if you're the next guy who throws in an Astro,
then
you're going to get hammered.
Yeah, you're going to get the book thrown at you.
I enjoyed the back and forth, and you don't go at someone's head, obviously, but.
I think there's still
Kelly was pretty funny.
There's still questions to me whether or not he was actually throwing at the head. The dude's he struggled to control his fastball most of his career.
That's true, but the taunting, the verbal part of it was pretty good.
I don't believe that it was a mistake when he threw at Correa. I think the Bregman one on 3-0. Okay, maybe he lost the fastball.
No, the Correa part. That's the footage I'm talking about. That was kind of priceless.
He probably threw it at him there, but getting off the field, that was hilarious.
Mm-hmm.
That was. Did you hear where they went and took the audio up and they got what Correa was saying? Where he said, "Oh, if I would have hit a homer, I would have just walked to home." And Kelly's basically like, "What?"
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
If I got an Astros player to swing and miss on a breaking ball at any point this year, I'm letting them know about it.
Mm-hmm. Well, and that was a filthy breaking ball that he got Correa to whiff on.
Exactly.
And then he let him know about it.
I'm sure Correa could have hit it if he would have had the trash cans banging.
Well, he knew it was coming.
Yeah, if he would have known it was coming.
You can get ready.
And that's what I'm saying. Is I'm letting every single Astros player this year know about it if I'm pitching.
So you are doing what tonight? Do you have a schedule this weekend of umping?
No, I believe I worked my last game of the year last year. We'll see. With there's always late assignments, people dropping the game, so we'll see. But plan for tonight is to dive into some Last Chance U.
Okay.
New season came out. I got through the first episode last night. So
I motored through the latest Fear City on Netflix. That was a 3 1-hour episodes when it comes to the mafia in New York City in the 70s and 80s, and Franzese.
I was looking into watching that one. Is that one?
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's really well done, and it's a little different. A lot of times these kind of dive and trend towards John Gotti, and he's part of it, but the story about how they took the commission down is really pretty fascinating.
See, for a while there, I had nothing to watch, but now I'm through a season and a half of Ozark. Thanks for the recommendation. I finally got into that. Got Last Chance U to watch. I want to watch this Fear City.
Yeah, get Fear City. Franzese with us Tuesday.
Ooh, I'll be out then. But.
Well, you'll hear it on the old podcast. Get the podcast, HailVarsity.com. Good stuff today. Thanks to Steve Warren, Mike Babcock, and our friends tomorrow. Get Arnett with us. Talk to you then.